The story of the Boehm house at 766 Main Street in Hellertown begins with John Philip Boehm, born in the Palatinate town of Hochstadt, Germany in 1683, a reverent man who became the founder of the Boehm family in America. The son of a minister, John Philip followed his father's footsteps in the German Reformed Church as a precentor in the city of Worms, leading congregational songs and prayers in his early 20s. The Reformed Church was a major branch of Protestantism in Germany, tracing its roots to the 16th century Reformation and the teachings of John Calvin. John Philip Boehm continued his rise in the Reformed Church and became quite outspoken in his beliefs. For that, he was persecuted by the ruling Roman Catholic Church and decided to seek religious freedom in William Penn's Pennsylvania colony. He emigrated there in 1720 with his wife and children, including his oldest son, Anthony William Boehm, who 3 decades later would build and occupy the original portion of the Boehm house in Hellertown. After gaining passage in Liverpool, England, aboard the ship Laurel, John Philip and his family arrived in Philadelphia on August 30, 1720, with 240 other Palatines. Not long after his arrival, Boehm purchased land in Whitpain Township, Philadelphia County. Because there were no churches or pastors in the vicinity, Boehm was urged by local Germans to read sermons at Sunday worship gatherings held in parishioners' houses and barns. He began serving small congregations in Faulkner Swamp, Skipack, and Whitemarsh, and served communion at Faulkner Swamp on October 15, 1725, the recognized date of the founding of the German Reformed Church in Pennsylvania. John Philip Boehm is regarded as the church's founder. Word of Boehm's services spread, and he soon began a career as a ministerial circuit rider in Philadelphia and Bucks counties, riding north and west from Faulkner Swamp into areas that eventually became Berks, Lehigh, Northampton, Lancaster, Chester, and Lebanon counties. Boehm's travels took him through the Saucon Valley, and in 1740 he acquired 200 acres along and east of Saucon Creek in Saucon Township, then part of Bucks County. Boehm purchased the land specifically so Anthony William Boehm would have land for a residence and farm. The acreage was bounded on the east by the King's Road, a busy dirt road that connected Philadelphia and Bethlehem, and which today is Main Street or Route 412 in Hellertown. The southern boundary of Boehm's tract was present-day Water Street in Hellertown. In 1743, John Philip bought an additional 103 acres adjoining his original purchase. He now owned land that extended north along Saucon Creek to a point somewhere between present-day Depot and High Streets. Deed records show that on September 30, 1747, John Philip and his wife conveyed the 2 tracts to Anthony William Boehm, their oldest surviving son. The land was in Lower Saucon Township, which was formed from Saucon Township in 1742. The same year, Christopher and Simon Heller arrived in the Saucon Valley. Anthony William Boehm built the original log portion of the Boehm homestead facing the King's Road in 1747. It was the first residence built in what later became Hellertown. On April 28, 1749, John Philip stopped at Anthony's home to spend the night after preaching at the Egypt Reformed Church north of present-day Whitehall. While at the home, John Philip became ill and died suddenly on the night of April 29. His body was transported 25 miles back to his home outside Philadelphia. Boehm lies buried beneath the altar of Boehm's United Church of Christ in Bluebell, Pennsylvania. Anthony William remained with his wife, Hannah Phyllis, in his house until about 1760, when he moved to Upper Saucon Township. He died there on April 6, 1776, and is buried in a private cemetery near his home. Anthony and his wife had one child, Philip Boehm, born 1747, who became a lieutenant colonel in Colonel Geiger's battalion of militia in Northampton County. He was the battalion's paymaster, responsible for paying members of the militia. In 1780, he became coroner of Northampton County. Philip Boehm built a stone addition on the north side of the original log structure around 1779. He operated a public house or tavern during the 1780s and early 1790s, somewhere along Kings Road in what is now Hellertown. An address of the tavern is not included on Northampton County tavern license applications, but it is conceivable that the tavern could have been part of the Boehm residence, perhaps the stone addition. In 1792, Philip Boehm sold 113 acres of land, including the site of his house, to a man named Jacob Oakes. Oakes was extremely generous and respectful. He allowed Philip and his wife to live in the home for the duration of their lives and paid special attention to keeping them supplied with food and life's other necessities, and even built a small stable for Philip Boehm's cow and 4 sheep. Philip Boehm died on January 10, 1816. Hannah Phyllis survived him for nearly 17 years, remaining in the old homestead thanks to Jacob Oakes' kindness. Both are buried in the Lower Saucon Church Cemetery, 2 miles east of Hellertown. Today, the Boehm house is nondescript among its surroundings. The original log portion of the home is covered in brick, and the chimneys that once stood tall above the roof line are shorter and never spout smoke from the large fireplaces that once kept the house and the Boehm's meals warm. The only visible reminders of the past are large stones of the 1779 addition that stand out above a barber shop and 2 other businesses that span the width of the home's front. If the stones could talk, they would regale the history that took place in front of the Boehm house on the old Kings Road, where travelers such as Benjamin Franklin, Alexander Hamilton, John Adams, and many other founding fathers rode through town on horseback or in coaches on their way from Philadelphia to Bethlehem. It was also where an exodus of hundreds of Continental Army wagons and thousands of soldiers and citizens marched their way to Bethlehem to escape the British capture of Philadelphia after Washington's defeat at the Battle of Brandywine in 1777. And it was also where the Liberty Bell stood tall in a wagon on its way to a secret hiding place in Allentown, so the British could not capture it and melt it into cannonballs. George Washington himself also rode on the King's Road on horseback on July 25, 1782, on his way to peace talks in Albany, New York, after his victory at the Battle of Yorktown in 1781 that ended the American Revolution. Hellertown is indeed fortunate to have such a distinguished and historic building such as the Boehm House still standing.